This is the tale of Afikpo village, where love danced between shrine and the cross, and where romance let a missionary of the gospel dare the gods in what is considered the forbidden union. In the heart of Nigeria, the village of Afikpo lay deep in the green heart of eastern Nigeria, surrounded by winding rivers, towering trees, and the ever-present rhythm of drums that echoed like the heartbeat of the land. The people lived by the ancient ways, guided by the spirits of their ancestors and the powerful earth goddess, Eke-ani. She was more than a deity. She was the soul of the village. Her shrine stood at the center of all things, where the people came to offer prayers, pour libations, and seek her protection. One quiet evening, as the orange sun sank low behind rows of tall palm trees, a stranger appeared at the edge of the village. His skin was pale like chalk, his eyes a clear, deep blue that mirrored the river. His name was Jonathan Blake, a young missionary who had come all the way from England. He wore simple white robes and held a worn leather Bible close to his chest. He carried no sword, no gun, only the words of his faith and a heart filled with hope. He had heard the call to bring his message to a place untouched by his God. But Afikpo was not empty. It was filled with spirit, with memory, with power. As Jonathan walked slowly into the village, the people watched in silence. Children hid behind their mothers. Hunters paused with vows in hand. The elders sat still in their carved wooden chairs, their faces unreadable. Priestesses in white wrappers whispered among themselves, their eyes sharp with concern. The shrine guardians, bare-chested and painted with sacred chalk, tightened their grips on their staffs. "This is not his land," one priestess murmured. "This is the land of the goddess," said another. "He should not be here." But he kept walking, not boldly, but humbly. One step, then another, into a world where the spirits ruled and where the fire of destiny had just been lit. In the heart of the royal compound, behind walls woven with sacred symbols and guarded by carved wooden gates, lived Princess Analika, the only daughter of Eze Okafor, the revered ruler of Afikpo. She was the jewel of the land, born on a night of thunder and stars, and from the moment she took her first breath, the oracle had whispered of her destiny. The goddess had chosen her. Her skin held the warm glow of burnished bronze, smooth and radiant in the sunlight. Her eyes, wide and still, held the calm strength of deep river water, steady, unshaken, ancient. Analika was not only a princess, she was the daughter of the shrine, the one marked to carry the spirit of Eke-ani, the great mother of the earth. Her voice echoed in the temple halls, her feet danced to sacred drums, and her hands poured libations with reverence passed down through generations. Each day she rose before the sun, bathed in herbs, and walked the sacred path barefoot, her soul tied to the rhythm of chants and the whispers of the spirits. She had never eaten from the common pot, never laughed with the village girls, never known the world beyond the shrine's shadow. Her life had been woven into the fabric of ritual like the red and white beads around her neck. Then, one evening, as she stepped out from the shrine gates, her eyes fell upon the stranger, Jonathan, the white man from the faraway land. Their eyes met and the air shifted. It was as though the wind had paused, a soft tremble, not of fear, not even wonder, but something deeper, stirred quietly within her chest. She could not name it. It was like a bird fluttering, a flame flickering low, and Jonathan saw her too, not with the eyes of a man seeing a woman, but with the soul of a wanderer finding water in a dry land. He noticed her grace, the way she moved like a poem. He noticed the quiet strength in her silence, and the weight behind her smile. There was something ancient and sacred about her presence, something that reminded him of the prayers he used to whisper as a child. She was beauty, yes, but she was more than that. She was peace, mystery, and longing, wrapped in the form of a girl bound by gods. In that moment, neither spoke. But something had been awakened, something beyond ritual, beyond faith, beyond rules. A story had begun. Their first words were shared by chance, or perhaps it was something greater, something the wind and the river had conspired to make happen. It was early morning. Mist still clung to the trees, and birds called out softly from the branches. Eke-ani had just finished her ritual by the river. A clay pot of water balanced easily on her head, her bare feet silent on the path. Jonathan was there, standing near the bank, scribbling something in a worn notebook, trying to capture the way the light kissed the water. He turned when he saw her and smiled, shy, hopeful. "Hututu yume," he said awkwardly, his tongue wrestling with the Igbo words. Eke paused, startled, then let out a soft laugh that sounded like wind brushing through leaves. "Totodume," she replied, gently correcting his tone. Her voice was warm, like water running over smooth stones. That small exchange opened a door neither of them had planned to walk through. After that morning, they began to meet again, first by accident, then by choice, always in secret, always in silence. They found a hidden place under an ancient baobab tree at the forest's edge, where the breeze carried no gossip and the leaves listened without judgment. It was a quiet place between two worlds, the world of spirits and the world of flesh. Eke would bring him gifts from her village, roasted yam wrapped in leaves, sweet palm wine in a calabash. Jonathan brought her stories from his Bible, told gently, without force. He spoke of shepherds and lost sons, of love that forgives and grace that waits. She listened with eyes wide, like moonlight on still water. And in return she spoke of the river gods, of the sacred trees, of the songs her grandmother sang to the winds. They did not always understand each other's beliefs, but they understood the language of hearts. Days turned into weeks. Their talks grew longer, their silences deeper. Sometimes they sat without words, just listening to the wind speak. And somewhere in those stolen hours, something dangerous bloomed, soft, wild, and real. Love. It came like rain after a long drought. Quiet at first, then all at once. But in a land where gods walked close to the earth and ancestors whispered through fire and bone, love did not come without a cost. And the price, though hidden at first, was waiting just beyond the trees. When word reached the shrine that Eke had been seen speaking with the white missionary, a chill ran through the compound. No one dared say it aloud at first. They whispered in corners, exchanged fearful glances, and waited for someone braver to speak. Then the chief priestess found out. Her voice tore through the air like thunder. She screamed so loud that birds burst from the trees in panic, flapping toward the sky in a frenzy. The sacred drums stopped. Even the wind held its breath. Within moments, the sacred fires around the shrine burned higher, as if the spirits themselves had stirred. She stormed into the inner shrine, her feet slamming against the earth. Her long black robes flew behind her like smoke. Her hands trembled with fury as she raised her staff and pointed to the heavens. "This is not a simple matter of the heart," she cried, her voice cracking with rage. "This is war, a war between the goddess and the god of the white man. Sacrifices were made, chickens, goats, and prayers soaked in blood. The priests and priestesses danced through the night, seeking answers. Smoke curled toward the stars. The air grew thick with chants and incense. Fear moved through the village like a shadow with no shape. At dawn, the oracle was summoned. He arrived covered in white chalk, his eyes red from fasting. He sat on the earth, whispered to the gods, and cast the cowries on a woven mat. They landed with a soft rattle. The message was clear. The signs spoke without mercy. If Annalika turned away from the path chosen for her by the goddess, if she followed love instead of destiny, the land would be punished. The rivers would dry. The yams would rot in the ground. The spirits would fall silent. The favor of Eke-ani would turn to wrath. Back in the palace, Ezeokarfer sat alone in the hall of judgment, his great staff resting beside him. His heart was heavy, split down the middle. He was not just a king. He was a father. When Annalika was brought before him, she did not kneel. She stood tall, her eyes red but steady, her hands folded before her. "My daughter," he said quietly, "you are not like other girls. You were marked by the goddess the day you took your first breath. You are the hope of our people. You were born for the shrine, not for this confusion." Annalika's voice shook as she answered, "But what if the gods did not choose my path to bind me? What if I was born for both, for the shrine and for love?" There was a long silence, a silence so thick it felt alive. The king looked at her, seeing both the little girl who once played at his feet and the woman who now dared to stand before him and challenge fate itself. He said nothing. Outside, thunder rumbled over the hills, though the sky was clear. The gods were listening. The night of the festival arrived, thick with music and smoke. Drums pounded like the heartbeat of the land. Fires lit the sky. Dancers, masked and painted, moved like spirits under the moon. The people of Afikpo sang and chanted, honoring Eke-ani with praise and sacrifice. No one noticed when Annalika slipped away. Dressed in a plain cloth with her royal beads hidden, she moved like a shadow behind the dancers, her heart pounding louder than the drums. Jonathan was waiting near the edge of the forest, by the place where they always met. He held a small canoe steady on the riverbank, his face pale with fear and hope. Without a word, she ran to him. Together they pushed the canoe into the dark water and paddled silently into the night. The river, at first calm, turned restless as they moved farther from Afikpo. Clouds gathered quickly overhead. The wind rose. The trees along the bank swayed as if whispering warnings. Rain began to fall, not gently, but in sharp, angry drops. Thunder cracked like a whip across the sky. Then came the growl from beneath the water. Jonathan paused, his arms trembling on the paddle. Annalika turned slowly. There, gliding just behind their canoe, was a massive crocodile, its scales black and glistening, its eyes like burning coals. The sacred crocodile of the shrine, it made no sound. It simply followed, steady and silent, like a curse given shape. By the time they reached the other side, Jonathan collapsed. His skin burned with fever. He whispered her name but could barely keep his eyes open. The Christian villagers who took them in looked at him with worry, then looked at Anilika with fear. "The gods are angry," they murmured. "You have stolen something sacred." Anilika nursed him through the night, tears falling freely as his breath grew shallow. She prayed to Eke-ani, to Jonathan's God, to any power that would hear her. But the air felt heavy and cold, as if no spirit dared come near. At dawn, they heard the drums, not of celebration, but of war. Kindly watch out for the second part of this suspense-filled story, The Forbidden Union Part 2.